And I've been questioned about when I said, well, I want only the best people back in public housing.
On TV talking about
I stand by that
the money.
statement.
Only Alfonso Jackson talking about 137 million about the damn Lafitte.
I want people who will pay their rent, work every day. I don't want gangbangers and drug dealers back in our public housing.
It ain't about the project. I ain't worried about the project. You heard me? I'm talking about the people.
That's right.
Who's talking about the
But I'm
people?
committing today,
Who
as I
talking
told
about
the
the
mayor, to demolish but rebuild better, so that the quality of life that you
Time and time again, we keep getting screwed and nobody ain't talking about the people. You heard me? You heard me? Man, no, man, cut what? Cut what? Man, what?
What's going on in City Council today? Today there's a vote on two motions. The first motion is to overturn the Housing Conservation District Review Committee's rule that there could be no demolition at Lafitte. So Hano is presenting its appeal of that decision. And then there is going to be a vote on the motion by Hano for demolition permits to be issued for all of the developments.
The more you listen, the more you gon' hear the truth. The more you listen, the more you gon' hear the truth. The homeowners group, the renters group, the public house residents group, the school, the public school with this charter stuff, the hospital. Who talking about the people? Who talking about the homeless? Huh? Who gonna put them 12,000 people in somewhere to live? Huh? Right. Who gonna talk about the people, the 4,500 families? That's not 4,500 people. That's 4,500 families. You heard me? None of y'all don't care about that. You don't care about the family, huh? But we do. We out here. I got a business. I'm a business owner. I'm from the project. Right. You heard me? Right. I'm a graduate. You heard me? And I'm fighting for my people. You heard me? You heard me? Years ago, the desire still ain't built up to this date. They built down the St. Thomas and built it up for the white people. You understand me? They knocked down the Magnolias and let me say something to all you homeowners out there. All you homeowners that got screwed with road home and all that. Everybody in this city done got screwed. Right. But all y'all going with the damn, the code. You know what I'm saying? Go out and still watch it. A storm can still come. And y'all won't come. When the storm is right here, we are standing.
If I got to go to jail for what I believe, if I got to die for what I believe in, I will not be treated like a slave.
No justice! No peace! 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 No justice!
Because we're not letting the black folk who spent all night on the damn bus to get here to speak. That's retarded. We know what they have to say. They've been saying it for years. We need to let these people in. They can stand up. You got 800,000 police here. Ain't nobody gonna do anything in here. You got SWAT here for crying out loud.
Exceeds capacity. It's a violation of fire code.
You thought you had a lot to worry about during Katrina. You put all these people out now, have nowhere to go. You're going to have people being robbed, murdered, and everything. These people that lost everything they had.
The meeting is illegal. Shut it down. Shut it down. The meeting is illegal. Just settle with the people and we can
Security. Enforce our rules. Security.
Failure to approve the demolition on these sites mean the threat of the loss of $312 million in tax credit equity, $108 million in CDBG funds, and a total investment in this community of more than $600 million.
What kind of problems HUD is going to have in getting funded for all these so-called visionaries there when they told the Congress people and the President of the Senate and the leadership go to hell? I mean, that doesn't make sense. And it really ought not get to that point of that kind of pushing and shoving. We need this time to examine whether or not these promises made will be promises kept.
If this vote is not taken today and the demolition does not proceed, there is a possibility that our agency could recapture the credits.
The issue of corruption, I think, is one that we really need to do some more work on. You're well aware that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is investigating the contracts between HUD and Hanno.
We know that Alphonso Jackson is under investigation, and we know his connections with the Atlanta construction firm.
The mismanagement by Hanno and HUD that has plagued our public housing development for years must immediately cease.
We want you to find housing for low and moderate income people, and we want to see it built. Because I can assure you, HUD will be looking at the monies that we sent to Louisiana. But more importantly, we want to see how much of that money is going to come where the greatest devastation occurred in and around New Orleans. That's right. That's right. We've sent $10 billion here. 60% of the destruction occurred in and around New Orleans.
It's a land grab thing that's going on because we understand that the land here in New Orleans as it relates to public housing is prime land, is raw material that could be utilized in many different ways. Through the Hope 6 process, the federal government program to redevelop these communities was the way that St. Thomas chose to go. In that original plan, it was decided that they would take folks from the state of low income to a position of middle class.
And I'm so tired of y'all using River Garden and Fisher for a role model. That regular 2x4 and plywood, I'll take them bricks any day.
This was 52 acres of prime land, actually, sitting in the heart of our economy here in the city. It sits on the banks of the Mississippi River, which is our import and export industry to the world, the central business district community, and the wealthiest section of the city.
Go finish in Florida, go finish in Desire. Go start where y'all stop at Mount Famine, Imperial Driveway.
The self-sufficiency plan that Hanno was supposed to be in partnership with the residents to develop never came through. It never existed. So therefore, what you had as a result was a mixed income attempt.
It's easy because public housing is very visible to escape, to pass the buck of all of our social ills and destroy it on public housing residents as if they're the problem. But if you destroy the buildings, it doesn't necessarily mean that racism and institutional sexism and other things are going to go away. It's not going to happen.
Urban renewal means Negro removal.
And we can put housing in this city in the forefront of America because we will have done some of the most massive rebuilding of lifestyles in the history of America.
Before I moved into River Garden, I was a former St. Thomas resident. I was paying $350 a month in rent. But they don't know we are living in hell. It's like you're almost living in prison. You got harassment. Your kids are getting harassed by the police unnecessarily. When they changed over from St. Thomas to River Gardens, we thought we was coming back to the warmth that we had when we was living in St. Thomas. But the problem is that the houses is beautiful, but it's a horror story living in River Gardens.
If anything occurs and then less time I'm in their places, they'll use it like as though I'm the problem, but all the while they'll be the one with the problem. They got a plumbing problem. My water bill was $886. And with the agreement we made, she knew what we made. She came out here and told all the residents that she was gonna put me out on the street and this, that, and another.
And it's a shame how we back here living like we in prison. If your family asks about you, my own family can't even come to my house. My own family. If one been for Miss Barbara, the whole community that's living in River Garden will be out with nothing. They will just be homeless.
They don't like the idea of you using a Section 8 voucher to get in another resident. They want you to pay that amount of rent.
The faster they move you in, the faster they get you out. If you're not paying mortgage rate, they want you out. If you're not paying mortgage rate and you under Section 8, they want you out.
And I just feel like one of the things that's been really missing from this dialogue is how women, poor women and women with their families will be impacted, given the fact that over 60% of the leaseholders in public housing were women.
Here I go. God was working on my evolution and my growth. I'm sharp as iron with a solid frame of mind. Open up the clouds in your life when it's the sunshine. Put all that excess baggage down. If you're living shit, then you gon' keep the flies and the maggots round.
I am a resident of St. Bernard Housing, and we have trusted in HUD, and they have failed us. And we in public housing should make the decision of what's gonna happen in public housing. You put me in a nice building, you do not make me a better person. Tearing down those buildings in public housing before we have a sound commitment from them of what we want. Who in their right mind don't want their child to have a decent living? Who in their right mind do not want their child to have a decent school? Who in their right mind does not want to live with mice infestation and bullets shooting over their head? I lived in it all my life in public housing, and I have no trust in the federal government. I have no trust in the city council, and I have no trust in HUD.
How y'all can just get up there? Y'all should be ashamed of yourself. But what goes around, come around, because I'm gonna be that same person watching you all on the news someday.
Last card, Reverend Marshall Truehill.
She got the St. Bernard put her and her husband where they at.
I'm voting for demolition because I believe in my heart that the replacement of the St. Bernard housing development with a mixed income community will do more for the development and improvement of District D than any other single step that we might take.
We moved, when they tore the project down, we moved in Trina. When we left Trina, we moved on Murrah. When we left Murrah, we moved on Elizalde. When we left Elizalde, we moved on Joanne. After Joanne, we came to 2618 Martin Luther King. Once we left 2618 Martin Luther King, that's when River Garden was asking my mom to come back. But the storm came too fast. So we went out there in Dallas. We made it back like in February the 2nd of 2006. We was staying in the trailer in the lower ninth ward right before you get across the canal. It took me to June the 6th to get in my place, and I've been applied since last year.
So as I stand here today, I not stand only for myself, but I stand here for the thousands of people who are without home. I stand here for the thousands of people who are going to be pushed out of public housing. You're creating and birthing a nation of homeless people. If you tear down the housing, where are those people going to go? There are people still displaced. They want to come home. Where are they going to go?
Demagogues and terrorizers must not be allowed to control the terms of this debate and take this issue away from us.
We're talking about 4,500 houses of people that they're talking about they want to give us 20 minutes or 30 minutes to be able to discuss, when this is the biggest redevelopment and future decision that the city of New Orleans will take. And so there has to be some acknowledgement that we are talking about thousands and thousands of families' lives, and we're talking about the future of thousands and thousands of families to be able to come back to the city. People want one of two things. If you're going to spend $700 million because 4,500 families are getting displaced, then at the end of the $700 million, every one of those families ought to be able to come home and they shouldn't be worse off, number one. And if you're not going to do that, then you ought to spend the money to fix up their apartments so they can come back.
This public housing issue is all part of one bigger issue, which is how do we treat people? What are the human rights that people have, the basic human rights? We believe once people have been displaced from a community, they have basic human rights to quality education, quality health care, quality housing, and housing in general.
In the discourse this morning, I've heard things like residents and clients, etc. But under the UN principles, the persons who were displaced here, they're internally displaced citizens, and that's what we should call them. The Tribune and the Times-Picayune produced a document that showed that 86,000 people, citizens, are about to be purged from the voter roll. So I learned that the tenant protection HANO and HUD is going to offer allows citizens to stay somewhere for up to 3 years while we get this 2010 plan going. Can we afford that to happen? Our folks are trapped in Houston because that money they talk about bringing them back here, that piece ain't funded. You hear? Right to return truly ain't funded. If you take anything away from that, believe me on that, it ain't funded.
We have a motion that has been made by Councilmember Medora, I believe, seconded by Councilmember Clarkson. Is there any further discussion or questions of the City Council? If not, please vote your machines on the motion. Here we go. 7-0, the motion is approved.
This authorizes them, and I'm not an attorney, so you're gonna have to excuse me. This authorizes them to proceed to get a permit for demolition.
From safety and...
From safety and permits. And we're gonna make sure that before those permits are issued, that those provisos are adhered to.
Thank you.
As best we can, best we can, best we can, best we can.
I think that's a vision that we can all work for in New Orleans. We are asking that we create new communities with more people engaged in the American dream.
I stayed back here a short while during one of my school years. I mean, it's real community oriented. Every house was full. My cousin lived in this apartment on the second floor right there. I was in this building right here. Right here? Right, the one they tearing down. You know, we have storms almost every year, hurricanes and stuff like that. So a place where me and my family always go during the hurricanes is the projects, because we know they can withstand all the wind, and you know, your roof not gonna go flying off if it get too bad, and you're not risking real flood damage because they sit about 3 or 4 feet off the ground. We always knew that if the city was to have a big storm, it would flood really bad because we're below sea level, and our teachers always taught us about that. So we was on the 3rd floor. It's like, I think about 9 of us. Man, this place, to see them tearing it down and to see the home population grow to what it has become, you know, now, it's ridiculous, you know. It's a crime for them to tear down, you know, housing, you know, and replace it with like few housing, you know. And the rain on it only signifies the pain.
We're gonna have to kill it.
Yes, yes. So in one image of the media, we get to be portrayed at the best in what we do. And the other image of the media, we get portrayed as the worst, you know? So it's like one extreme to the next. America likes to take one thing away and thinking that's gonna solve the problem. I understand that America, you know, likes to take criminals to jail and say they're stopping crime, you know? I understand all of this. So when you tear down the projects and tell me that's the answer to crime, I understand what you mean by that. I understand that you don't know no better as a highly educated decision maker. I understand you're so out of touch with what's really going on that it's a shame. You know? I understand that you can have homeless right next to City Hall, and you walk past them every day and decide to tear down houses, you know. I understand you're kind of on the hard list. You know, I guess it just has to be your family living out there on the streets.
The large percentage of public housing residents are good, decent people, and we owe it to them to provide a transitory arm of help which hopefully will lead to a better chance in life.
And I challenge the leaders of the city of New Orleans that while you have your people that you're supposed to represent suffering, why don't you come out here amongst us and see what it's like to be out on the streets?
It's been like, what, 3 years since Katrina hit? Look around. Action speaks louder than words. People shouldn't be living like this 3 years, not even a year, you know? If they'd have used the money correctly, not even a half a year. You know, people should have been put up.
Well, and again, they demonstrate, like, okay, wait, they have 162 move-in ready units.
Right.
And we have 12,000 homeless people in New Orleans.
And a waiting list of several thousand.
That they have public housing units that are vacant.
They have public housing units that are vacant. What are they doing with it?
Like, do you know how what's the process to get one of those units?
No, I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Like I said, I just talk about what I see.
Is there anything else you would like us to capture on camera?
Come around here about 1 in the morning when the wind blowing hard. You see what I'm saying? Like it's icy cold out there. And see what's happening. You know?
I was living in the French Quarter.
Okay.
And then I had to live in my abandoned house. My house I own, but no lights, no water. They put me in this hotel in San Roque Park, and then they put me out here in New Orleans East. And so
they say they have over 100 vacant units.
They might have a couple of them fixed up just right. Okay, let them see that one, let them see that one, let them see. Let's go look at that one over there. No, push them on the side.
Some people have been leaving, going to hotels. Some people been getting apartments. I think I'm one of the first ones that was on the list. And it ain't about that, it's about helping people. But if anybody got a place for a person that's trying, woo-wee, and you see this film, please come out here and holler for Eric.
Hano says that there are several hundred units available, which is showing that the
Well, actually,
protesters...
again, 162 is what I see.
And certain numbers of vouchers and certain...
Yeah, the
et
units
cetera.
waiting inspection, I'm sorry, homeless people can't move into those. Right?
Nevertheless.
Nor the 808 units in 3 to 12 months from completion.
Right.
500 apartments eligible for not buying. Yeah, okay.
That if there are vacant units, given the large demand, why are they not being filled? Why do
Yes.
they remain vacant?
This is largely the result of policy, much of it from the federal government, which not only have they not helped people come back to New Orleans, but they're actually putting in policies that are keeping people out of the city and that are redefining the city. Now, this comes in the context of some broader political movements and trends.
They are no longer responsible for maintaining the infrastructure. They have saying now that the private markets should determine everything. And we see that across this country, bridges are collapsing, school systems are collapsing. In this city, we don't have a restoration of our bus services. These are things which are vital if you want poor people who are without transportation, without access to pay private school tuition. These are things that must be supplied. And these were things that were usually seen as part and parcel of your right as a citizen, that you had a right to these things. And we're saying that we have to reassert that right now if we're going to reclaim our cities.
The destruction of public housing, the destruction of public education, the destruction of public health care, and turning all of these services over to the private sector is happening. The United States is doing it worldwide to other countries, and it's happening in our country. But the pace in New Orleans is accelerated because of the disaster. The disaster of Katrina offered the people who want to privatize everything an incredible opportunity to go forward and make some dramatic changes. And so we're the subject of those dramatic changes. What's happening in New Orleans is important to the people of New Orleans, but believe me, if they can get away with it in New Orleans, it's coming to everybody's hometown.
You've found places like in Chicago, New York, San Francisco, where you have residents coming together fighting issues like what's being fought here today. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was talking about Pharaoh is letting the slaves go. You know, when they brought us over here to cultivate their land and pick cotton, now years down the line they don't feel like they have any more use for us, so therefore why do we need them? So now all of those little conclaves or those little communities where they set us to the side, now to set us to the side for us not to be a part of their community, now they're realizing that they want them back. Like in these housing developments, they put us in there to keep us out of their neighborhoods. Now they want them back, and now they want to come and begin to start demolishing them.
And what we all need to understand in this community is that public housing is not just a benefit for public housing residents. When you have individuals who work for 10 and 15 years and make only $11 an hour, $20,000 a year in a city where an efficiency apartment costs $800 a month, someone is being subsidized on some end of this equation, and those people who are being subsidized are the business owners because they're not being forced to pay a living wage. So that money goes into the business owner's pocket. It goes into the hotel owner's pocket because they're not paying a living wage to the maids in the hotel. And so because we're going to have slaves here, we need to house them. If you don't want to house the slaves, then release us, make us free. Let us make enough money so that we can go and buy these homes. But it's one or the other. It's one or the other.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks that lived up in here. This is kind of like an old spot getting ready to go. And oh, wow, what happened over there? Oh, Mary Lou had a baby down there, you know, so everything went on over here, you know, from one generation to another. Yeah, I guess at some point in time, you know, you got to make a change. You know, I had a discussion with a guy about 2 days ago, and he was saying, oh, well, it was all right to live up here in the projects and stuff, but it's like seeing somebody go that you know. And the projects, I knew. So this all around here was like just home, you know? So I figured I'd get a few more pictures before the wrecking ball came. Usually when the hurricanes come, me and myself, I run when the hurricanes come. But most people run to somebody in the projects. You know, you got a cousin, auntie, or something. The houses done left, but the projects are still here now. I'm gonna tell you that. You know?
Kraus used to be a department store. So now they're taking Kraus and they're making them out of condominiums. Same thing could have been done here. Tear out walls and remodel like they're doing these for people to move back in. They could have did it to all of them. Lafitte, look at those bricks. See those bricks? Beautiful bricks. Nice, strong bricks. Cooper, CJP, St. Bernard, remodel. Because if you tear them down, that's not getting rid of the problems that you claim you having. Housing Authority, HUD has failed us.
Please come in compliance with the rules and laws of the City Council. Security. Enforce our rules. Security.
You feel me? But all of those city council members had prepared speeches. They had prepared speeches because they already knew which way they was going. So the pros, the cons, all of that didn't matter.
What the city council did today was a slap in the face to the poor people of New Orleans and the middle class people of New Orleans, because they are more concerned about the concerns of the corporate thieves that want to come in and try to rape New Orleans while so many of our people are displaced.
20 years ago, they started knocking the Desire housing development down. Still to this day, you can only move in 142 houses. They had over 9,000 homes. Over 9,000 homes knocked down to 142 homes. Come on, man, they're not gonna do right. The St. Thomas Project, they knocked down the St. Thomas Project and they only built up a certain amount of homes for those people to go back to. They knocked down the Magnolia, sitting on dry land.
For the city council to vote unanimously to tear down these housing projects, it's a sad day in New Orleans, but it's not over, because we are here and we will continue to come and we will continue to organize. Hano needs to step up, HUD needs to step up, Congress needs to step up, the Senate needs to step up, the President needs to step up.
There are thousands and thousands of people that are homeless in the streets right now. There are thousands more that are about to be taken out of their homes in Houston, in Atlanta, in Baton Rouge, and everywhere else. And they're gonna come home, they're gonna come to New Orleans, the place where they know.
Mixed income do not mean inclusion of everyone. And they're playing with language today when they talk about one-for-one replacement. We're not calling for one-for-one replacement of the 200 people that reside in a project that had over 1,300 people there before the storm. We're talking about one-for-one replacement of all 1,300 residents that's displaced right now. Do not play with the language. Do not deceive the people. Y'all wrong, it's a shame, and then you're embarrassing them in front of the world again.
We don't just have an understanding, we have an overstanding that we know that HUD is not gonna do right by the people, Hano is not gonna do right by the people, the police is not gonna do right by the people. They're not protecting and serving the people, they're protecting and serving the bureaucracy.
Tracy Washington, in very forceful terms, accused you of racism and inciting a riot by blowing kisses at detractors in the audience.
Well, that's not the first time that Tracy Washington's made an ugly allegations against me. I think she claimed that I had done those posters that I believe all thoughtful parties believe that, in fact, the people who are on her side put out those.
The force that was used, I think you all saw it very well, what occurred. And I think you all know very well why those tasers were used, and you know why the mace was used. You have it on video, I've seen it on video. I think it speaks for itself.
It's a problem when people see Africans in America and think that they're your enemy, and think that you're gonna target these people and just do what you can. You can't just push me, man. They tasered my brother. They tasered Cool Black just because we wanted to speak for the people.
And to show you I ain't lying, blood stains are still in my clothes.
Get him on.
Stop it! This was a clear violation of the Sunshine Law. They're supposed to always be, whenever there's an issue like this here on the table, they're supposed to have open public meetings so that everybody can voice their opinion. It was clear today that the voice of opposition was not going to be heard.
And the people stood up saying that we're not going to have any meeting until you get the rest of the people from outside to come in.
Because this is a clear violation of rights, and it is a clear case of class and racism. Classism and racism.
And so in my God-given right to protest, some didn't see, that right. You feel me? So they decided to put their hands on me. I didn't put my hands on anybody. They put their hands on me. So in self-defense, whatever happens, happens. You feel me? And then, wow, all of those people, you feel me, jumped on me, 10, 16, however many of them was, police officers, security guards, whatever. While I'm on the ground, they tasered me. And stuck a lot of votes. However many votes the top taser gun gives, they put all them votes in me. And while I'm being, electrocuted, it can't move, and I'm just stunned there, the officer gives me a command to put my arms behind my back. And I got voltage in me, and I can't move. If you ever been stunned, I never been stunned, but I couldn't move. And so, since I didn't comply with putting my arms behind my back, they tasered me again.
Oh, one other thing, I just want to say, it's a shame that none of our black elected officials was here today and stepped out and said a word. Shame on y'all, because it was y'all who ran to public housing residents when they was trying to take your vote, when people were scattered all across Houston in the Gulf South. Shame on you Negroes.
That's right.
This is democracy in action at its best. At its best.
I woke up this morning, came out here, and my emotions have run the gamut of negativity. From sorrow and hurt and pain to shame and embarrassment and disappointment to feeling that I don't know who I have sitting up there representing me. Because I want to believe that we can trust the people we elected to represent us.
The more you listen, the more you gon' hear the truth. The more you listen, the more you gon' hear the truth. The more you listen, the more you gon' hear the truth. The more you listen, the more you gon' hear the truth.
I'm back on deck, live from the set. I ain't from Houston, but I got a lot of zeros on my check. Even though they think I'm rich, I ain't made a meal yet. I'm still representing that 9 and that Desire Project. Where the Black Panther Party was known to protest. Not a black love movement, we own it. So next, it feels good to be home, now. Cause every second you're gone alone is slow death. They raise the rent, cause they know we can't pay that shit. It's price gouging, but you too scared to say that shit. You better fight back and put them crackers in the corner. The same thing could happen in New York or California. They want us out of Texas and they want us out Atlanta. And they don't want our black ass back in Louisiana. It's about black and white and it's about human rights. They fucked us once, I'll be damned if they fuck us twice. No surrender, no retreat, no defeat, no sleeping. These Southside soldiers be. My people know how to ride, you can ride with me. My people know how to die, stay alive with me. No surrender, no retreat, no defeat, no sleeping. These Southside soldiers be. My people know how to ride, you can ride with me.
House for house, house for house, home for home, home for home. We want a house for house, we want a house for house, want a home for home, want a home for home. All is in my home. That's where I belong. Where the people go marching, go
House for house.